Well, today is a day of honor and commemoration because today we officially retire from my shoe lineup the Nike Vaporfly Next Percent in the Valerian Blue Watermelon color scheme. So basically we're just going to talk about the end of life of the shoe, some of the specs, more or less comparing and contrasting the shoe to the previous renditions of the Vaporfly, and what happens next for me in the Vaporfly series. So before we get into it, make sure you like the video, subscribe to the YouTube channel. 2021 is going to have some daily vlog stuff coming up, in addition to a travel training elevation vlog as we get to that point in time. Still a lot of planning and logistics to go forth with that, but of course, if you are subscribed to the channel already, thank you very much for your continued support. Love you guys a lot. Means a lot. And yeah, without further ado, let's get into it. So, of course, the Nike Vaporfly Next Percent. What can we say about it other than what we've already known about it for the last 2 years now? Oh, a little bit, just under 2 years, I guess we can say. This is overall a very crazy, wonderful shoe for a lot of different purposes, as far as I'm aware and concerned about that. But yeah, let's get into the specs. So first things first, this shoe at about average weight is like 6.9 to like 7.2 ounces, which puts it about 200 to 215 grams on average. Again, this depends on your shoe size and whatnot. I know at about 8.5, it's like 6.9, closer to 7 ounces. So it puts it on the very light end of shoes, of course. The offset from the heel to the forefoot is about 10 millimeters, where the heel is 40 millimeters, which makes it just barely legal for racing in. If you're an elite athlete, and then in the forefoot, it is, in that case, about 30 millimeters in terms of stack heights. On that front, I think we've covered the general specs with it. Let's talk about the bottoms. So, of course, starting from the outsole, as you can see, it's double stacked Zoom X foam running right across, which, of course, is a lot more reactive, a lot softer, has that much more of a kick to the foam, but it does have a lot of sink. The way we counteract that, of course, is the signature piece of the shoe, which is the carbon plate that is sandwiched in between both the Zoom X foams, of course. And that's where we get into the bottoms and the insoles, more or less. So, Zoom X is pretty much exposed here in this midfoot region of the shoe. Down here, we have 2 rubber pads, so if you are a heel striker, you're not sinking into the Zoom X. You're going to hit these pads first, which then help propel and use the carbon plate in the compression and decompression sense to get you moving. In the forefoot region, of course, you have this rubber plate, which is pretty standard for most of these running shoes. I don't think they wouldn't have some kind of rubber in this area. And this, in this case, obviously when you strike here and use that carbon plate area to compress and decompress, it gives you the lift that the Vaporfly Next Percent is signature to have. Let's talk about the uppers. So, Vaporweave running all across the upper, minus the areas by the shoelaces and the shoe collar. The Vaporweave material ultimately is just this translucent mesh, which is very flexible, very comfortable, and its idea, or one of the perks of the Vaporweave ultimately, is that when you are running in rainier conditions, the shoe does not get heavy. It reduces the amount of weight and water you would potentially absorb if that was the case, if you were running during a rainy condition and whatnot. It's something most runners don't think about, but the shoe, as it does get heavier and you start experiencing more fatigue towards like the end of the race or something, you don't want that to be a factor in why you would begin slowing down or burning out in the middle of a race. So by having the Vaporweave, you are ultimately mitigating, not totally remediating yourself from that, but just pushing that issue away a little bit better than most like shoes that are like a fly knit material, which might absorb more water. In the shoelace region, the shoelace is, of course, asymmetric to the outside of the shoe. No issues with how they're set up. The tongue, of course, in the shoe is offset as well, and this is one of the first renditions, not maybe one of the first, but like one of the more known shoes to use this asymmetric offset. They've ultimately made this shoe tongue a lot more popular amongst their shoes, and yeah, I think it works overall pretty well at this point in time. In terms of the inside here with the shoe collar, the collar does have this like plush kind of like it's not really plush. Like, the collar has this kind of soft material on the outside here that's just meant to be comfortable around your ankle. With the Achilles pillow, there is one, of course, in there, and it's got a lot of cushion and whatnot. And when we come to comparing the shoes, this is kind of where my big comparison points will start coming in. But yeah, overall in this area, it's got a pretty decent lock, but there are things that can improve. So I'll leave it at that for now in terms of the specs. Let's just talk about the overall experience, how I've used this shoe, and how many miles we're at, and what does it look like at its final run through. So, man, my nose is like itchy for some reason. Okay, so the purpose of the shoe, yeah, of course I bought this in kind of like the late spring, early summer of 2020. It was meant for the Chicago Marathon when the race was going to go through, because I was originally training under the presumption that it was going to go through, and then the race did get canceled, but they gave us virtual options, so I said, screw it, let's do it. And I was going to definitely run it in this shoe, and I was kind of breaking it in here and there in Chicago, but it really started making an impact in my training when we took it out to Silverthorne, Colorado, and we started using it in elevation. It definitely helped keep me running fast when the air was just heavy and my lungs just weren't operating at 9,000 feet elevation. And yeah, that's just kind of the big memories I have with this shoe, is just being able to train in elevation and just have a really good run anytime I had this thing. Even when I had blisters under my feet, like, the shoe prevented the blisters from rubbing on my socks or on my foot, so it just prevented that pain from happening more than it was supposed to in, per se, like a Pegasus 37 or Infinity React, right? And then, of course, yeah, we took it during the Chicago Marathon, and I ran an unofficial 3:07 virtual marathon PR. And yeah, it worked very well on race day. It was very reliable, very stable, and I just had a good time with it overall. The only thing that did occur with this shoe afterwards was I took a month break from running in the Vaporfly, and when I got back into it for like making YouTube comparison videos and stuff like that, the shoe was very like firm, and it was just rough, and I couldn't like move around too much with the vapor weave. Landing with this shoe just didn't feel right. It just felt like running on a carbon plate shoe. It felt foreign for a little while, and what happened was, there was so much salt buildup on this shoe that it lost a lot of its vaporweave flex. So you did have to wash the shoe afterwards. At least rinse it down pretty thoroughly just to get all the salt out of it. And after that, it was pretty good for the most part. But yeah, that was definitely one of my concerns, more or less, after the marathon. At that point, I think the shoe only had like about 50 to 60 miles left on it before, of course, the rubber starts breaking and I start exposing the carbon plate, as traditionally I have been doing with the Vaporfly series shoes. And as you can see here, this is what it looks like after just about 250 plus miles. Yeah, the plate is pretty much exposed. There's a lot of like salt and like dirt on this shoe, more or less, because I am running during the winter time, but there isn't a whole lot of snow right now specifically, just a lot of salt and just a lot of other muck just all over the place. So that's kind of what's getting absorbed on the bottom of this shoe, more or less. So as you can expect, the rubber is peeling off in the exact places I expect them to do so. They are peeling towards the bottom of the shoe, which means that either my strike has me dragging the shoe, or when I'm stopping, I'm really grinding on that shoe to come to a complete halt. So both of them are potentially factors, but until we do a running form gait analysis of my running form, we're not going to know exactly what's destroying my shoes more, because there is potential for change, I guess, in my stride, especially with this right foot. Maybe there's like muscles that are just not keeping up, or tendons that need to be worked out just to keep up with the load and the training that I'm doing on running, you know. And yeah, maybe we can remediate this issue entirely, but I digress. So yeah, at this point in time, the shoe is being retired from my distance workouts. But there's two things that it's not retired for yet. So it's about 33% retired. So the title of the video is kind of deceptive. I apologize. But I'm explaining to you what I do in the sense of efficiency with this. So efficiency factor number one is I can still use this. Believe it or not, even though the carbon plate is completely exposed, there's one more run I need to do in this shoe before we totally call it quits. And that is to run my 5K time trial. And I'm going to do it in this shoe. I'm also going to do it in a Brooks Hyperion Elite that I have over there. And I'm also going to do it in an Alphafly once we're ready for it. Because, of course, there is a very serious plan of breaking sub 16 in the 5K. And once I can do that, we're talking business. So that's something I've been really not training much for, but just kind of working up in my mind as we start implementing more track workouts once the snow kind of melts and I can have access to the track once more. And yeah, I do still want to run a track workout in the Vaporfly, including track spikes as well, but the 5K is the big play here. So that's one piece of the lifespan. And the second is when we start mixing and matching the Vaporfly shoes, as I've done it historically. This shoe still has life in it. So if I wanted to use like a newer right shoe with less miles on it, but I wanted to use a left shoe that was a different color, this shoe is still good and I can still use it. Believe it or not, like this wear here is not like at such a tremendous level where running with two different shoes would be like feel unequal, or like one would be slightly higher than the other because of the rubber shred. Like you can still get away with it pretty well. So that's just something fun to consider in the future when we get to that point. The last thing I want to talk about here is how this pair of Vaporfly Next Percents compares to two previous iterations of the shoes. So first things first, let's talk about one of the first pairs I had. I think this is the second one I've ever had because, yeah, this is the 310 Marathon. So I used this one for the 2019 Chicago Marathon. For nostalgic sake, this has been my favorite Vaporfly that I've ever run in. Just that workload, that time spent with this shoe, I managed to get it really locked down, just really comfortable. And yeah, ultimately, just everything seemed to have worked really well with this shoe. Overall, just again, at the time, the issue was this mesh collar that they have on the outside here, or it's like maybe like this weird fiber collar. It's not necessarily mesh, but whatever it is, it doesn't really have a lock, and I wonder what its purpose really is if it doesn't like lock in your ankle. I understand that the Achilles pillow is supposed to be doing part of this job, but this has like a really thin Achilles pillow. You know what I mean? So getting the lock in this shoe is kind of a tricky feat. At the time, I didn't really care too much because I was all about running in like slightly thicker socks. So that thicker sock would hold on the collar of the shoe much better. Now I've kind of steered away from those thick socks and I've worked into slightly thinner ones. And now it's a lot more noticeable, the lack of stability with your foot in this region of the shoe, right? So that was the Electric Green series. The pink one, this is where things got a little spooky. So I was using this as my build-up shoe for the Tokyo Marathon into 2020. And what happened was there's like a slight manufacturing thing, I guess, where the shoe is like really tight in some weird places, especially in this upper region. The toe box was kind of tight in some spots, and it was just very bizarre. And I thought like maybe my foot structure had changed or something, but after reading comments, it seems like a lot of people who owned this pink pair had experienced similar things where like the shoe was just manufactured slightly differently and it was just very tight in different spots. So whatever Nike tried out in terms of manufacturing to either cut costs or try to get the lockdown figured out, they kind of took a step in the wrong direction, okay? And it's just my opinion that whatever happened, it made the pink series shoe kind of flop. Some people didn't really care, but like when you look at websites like Stocks and stuff, like the pink pair sells significantly cheaper than most of the other Vaporflies, and that can be for also a number of other reasons, such as like the other shoes just being available in the market being cooler than this one. What's the word I'm looking for? Is it market saturation? I think that's what it is. That there's just so many other Vaporfly Next Percent color schemes on the market that are just cooler, in my opinion, than the pink one, and maybe that's why this one goes cheaper, because they have an overabundant supply. It's hard to say, but in my case, I would probably not buy the pink one again just because of this reminder that the shoe is so tight in such weird places that it made the shoe really uncomfortable to run in. Now, here's where the Watermelon Valerian Blue series did okay, I suppose. The biggest change between this Vaporfly and that one, for sure, is the size of the Achilles pillow and maybe the design of it. Like, it's probably hard to see in this light. I'm going to see if we like put it like that, maybe. There we go. The Achilles pillow is a lot wider. It's covering a lot more space in the shoe, and it's got a different like pattern etched out into it. But the ultimate point with it is that the step they took back from the pink series, they walked it back in the right direction. They've kind of made their progress neutral on the shoe. So it's more like the electric green shoe once again. And yeah, overall, this Achilles pillow thing is like a step in the right direction, but they still got to figure out what to do with this like fiber collar. If they want to get something more solid to lock down your ankle exactly to this area, or if they've done their, you know, testing and research and determined that the lockdown with the Achilles pillow is more than enough, and this is just like some softness around your ankle, and it's just a design just to keep it there. I mean, I don't know. If it was up to me, I would like this to have some utility to the shoe ultimately, but, you know, who am I to say anything about that? Apparently, I'm smart enough to spend $1 a mile in this shoe as of right now. So, yeah, that's kind of cool, I suppose. So that's where we're standing right now with the Vaporfly Next%, with the distance run retiring of the Watermelon Valerian Blue series. Will I buy another Vaporfly Next%? Totally. What's going to happen is if this video gets 50 likes, the highest commented, most liked, I guess, suggestion in the comments between the mango and that ice cream colored one that was like white and had like blue and red on it. We're just going to name them based on the foods that they look like. So, of course, this is strawberry, that's lime, that's watermelon. And now we've got the mango and we've got the ice cream. So whichever one gets voted up higher by the end of the 50 like mark is the one I'm going to buy next. Because they're both pretty cool. And yeah, I would happily run in another Vaporfly Next% again, review it, compare it and contrast it. You know, that's what I do. And of course, in training for like all these marathons and stuff, I need a pair of Vaporfly Next%. I can't use currently a Hyperion Elite to train the same way I would train in a Vaporfly. That's crazy. So anyways, I'm going to leave that on this note. Thanks for watching the video. Make sure you like the video, subscribe to the YouTube channel, and then, of course, comment down below your experiences with your Vaporflies, if you have the Watermelon Valerian Blue series, if you enjoyed it, if you agree with my assessment of it, and, of course, which of the two colors, the mango or the ice cream color combination, you think we should buy next and review. So, we'll leave it on that note. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys real soon.